Good day everyone, this is Edward A. Abarca and welcome to the part 2 of my video which talks about my learnings in chapter 1 all about summative assessment. So we will go to the main content after the short intro.
Come around, I've been feeling down, sick and tired of feeling like I'm living in a ghost town. I cannot sleep, it's getting harder and harder to breathe. 6 feet buried beneath, and all the dust is following me. And the lights go out, grit my teeth, shut my mouth. When the night comes around, I become a ghost now.
So now let's know first what is summative assessment is all about. So summative assessment is an assessment administered at the end of an instructional unit in a course. So these assessments are intended to evaluate student learning by comparing performance to a standard or benchmark. So summative assessment or summative evaluation or assessment of learning is the assessment of participants where the focus is on the outcome of a program. So this contrasts with the formative assessment, which summarizes the participants' development at a particular time. So summative assessments are used primarily to document student performance, such as to monitor and record student proficiency, to give students grades, to report to parents, for selection into special programs, for conferring of honors, for establishing a record of performance, for accountability, as evidence of students learning to evaluate teachers, and lastly, for college admissions and employers. So summative assessment is very important because summative assessments are designed to determine whether or not a module's learning objectives have been achieved. This strategy is also an essential part for the e-learning process, as it can help you determine whether or not the learner is ready to move on to the next stage or level. Sometimes summative assessments are used formatively and formative assessments are used summatively. So summative assessment may be used to plan instruction, and the primary difference between summative and formative assessment is in the use of the evidence. So the primary purpose of summative assessment is to establish a score or grade to represent what students know and can do. So here are some factors in planning summative assessment. The first step in constructing a classroom summative assessment is to review the criteria for high-quality assessment. So are there clear and appropriate learning targets? What method of assessment is the best match? Will the evidence allow valid inferences? How can error be minimized? Will the assessment be fair and unbiased? Have students had the opportunity to learn what is being assessed? Will the assessment be practical and efficient? Will the assessment be aligned with instruction? Are the consequences of the assessment positive? So as an overview in this chapter, so planning and formatting summative assessment that have traditionally been constructed by teachers for use with their students are discussed. So here are some examples of a summative assessment. So the first one is a chapter test. So a chapter test is a type of summative assessment which focuses to measure chapter concept and mastery and allow students to review the chapter materials prior to an in-class chapter test developed by the educator. So the tests can be found at the end of every chapter in the textbooks. The second example is a unit test. So unit test is similar to chapter test in which the assessment happens in every unit. So the third one, let's talk about the semester test. So first semester means 6-month period or half of the school year. So the end of the first half of an academic semester, that is often a time for examinations and reports on students' progress compared as midterm. So semester test is midterm exam and final examination. So semester test can also be referred as final examination, annual exam, final interview, or simply final. So it's a test given to students at the end of a course of study or training. So although the term can be used in the context of physical training, it most often occurs in the academic world, of course. Most high schools, colleges, and universities run final exams at the end of a particular academic term. So typically, a quarter or a semester, or more traditionally at the end of a complete degree course. That's all for summative assessment.